Far beyond the bright, crowded worlds of the inner galaxy, there lay a place no one wanted to visit. It was called the Quarantine Zone. The zone was vast and wild, stretching for hundreds of kilometers with jagged mountains, cracked plains, and dark, thick forests. Clouds of dust and strange gases hung low in the sky. Most creatures could not survive there, and the Interstellar Council, the group that ruled the known worlds, believed humans could not survive either. For many decades, the zone was considered deadly, abandoned, and forgotten. Ships that entered rarely returned, and those that did spoke of impossible heat, strange storms, and silent nights where the stars seemed different. But the council was wrong. Humans still lived there, hidden from the galaxy, stronger and smarter than anyone imagined. They had learned to survive in ways the council could not predict. They had learned to adapt to the strange plants, the dangerous animals, and the ever-changing weather. They had built homes from the rocks and trees, dug wells for water, and learned to grow food in the most unlikely places. Every day was a challenge, but humans thrived. Mara, a young scout of the human settlement, crouched behind a jagged cliff. Her brown hair blew across her face as she squinted at the valley below. She was small but fast and quiet. From here, she could see the new shelters that the humans had built over the past few weeks. They were made of stone, wood, and metal scavenged from old ruins. Smoke rose from small chimneys, and the faint sound of laughter and voices drifted up to her. Children ran along the paths, chasing each other, while older humans worked in the fields. Mara smiled, though only slightly. Life here was hard. Every day required effort, planning, and care. The weather could change suddenly, bringing scorching heat, freezing nights, or dangerous storms. Wild animals often attacked, and strange diseases sometimes appeared from the land or water. But humans were clever. They built traps, invented medicines, and learned the behavior of every animal and plant around them. They were small in number, but their determination was larger than the mountains themselves. Below the cliff, Mara saw a group of humans tending to the crops. These were no ordinary plants. They grew thick and twisted, their leaves glittering faintly in the sunlight. Some of the crops had fruits that glowed faintly at night, giving off a soft, warm light. Humans had learned which plants could be eaten, which could heal, and which could be used as tools or materials. Mara remembered the first time she had tried to harvest the glowing fruit. It had been tricky. If picked too early it would spoil, too late and it could poison. But she had learned. And now she could help the others grow it faster and safer. A small whistle sounded from the top of another ridge. Mara turned and saw Terran, one of the older scouts, waving at her. He was tall, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to shine with intelligence. He had been part of the settlement for many years, one of the humans who had survived the earliest dangers of the quarantine zone. Mara waved back and climbed down the rocks carefully to meet him. "Everything looks good," Terran said quietly, scanning the valley. "The new shelters are holding. The fields are growing. And the children," he chuckled, "they run faster than ever. I don't think the storm last week slowed them at all." Mara nodded. "The council thinks we are gone. They will never imagine what we have built here." Terran's eyes darkened a little. "We must be careful. They still watch from afar. Their sensors are weak but not blind. If they find us too soon, they will come with ships and they will not understand why we survive. We must be ready." Mara looked down at the valley again. Humans were busy with their daily tasks, unaware of the galaxy that still believed they were extinct. Every tool, every shelter, every step of progress was a small victory. Every day they survived was a quiet triumph against a galaxy that had given up on them. As Mara moved through the rocky paths back to the main settlement, she passed a small group of children practicing their climbing skills on the rocks. They shouted with joy, slipping and catching themselves, learning agility and courage at a young age. Humans in the quarantine zone did not have toys or games as children in the inner worlds did. Their games were lessons in survival. Every fall taught balance, every chase taught speed, every shout taught confidence. Mara smiled again, seeing the determination in their eyes. These children would grow to be strong, clever, and resourceful, stronger than most humans from the inner worlds. When Mara reached the main settlement, she was greeted by Lona, the healer. Lona was sitting near a small fire, preparing herbs that grew wild in the cliffs. She was older than Mara but moved with surprising speed and care. Lona had saved many lives in the settlement. Humans here had learned to heal themselves, using knowledge passed down through generations, mixed with trial and error. Mara watched her work and thought about how humans had transformed even the deadliest lands into places of life. "Morning, Mara," Lona said softly. "You saw the valley?" "Yes," Mara replied. "Everything is growing. The shelters are fine. The children are learning. We are safe, for now. Lona nodded. Safe enough. But remember, Mara, we are still watched. The Council believes we are extinct. That belief keeps us hidden. We cannot let them see us unprepared. Mara understood. Humans were clever, yes, but cleverness alone could not protect them. They had to be patient, quiet, and careful. Every day brought new risks. The storms in the zone were unpredictable. New creatures sometimes appeared. Even the crops they had learned to grow had their dangers. One wrong step could bring disaster. But humans had learned to adapt. They studied, experimented, and observed. Nothing was left to chance. As Mara walked further into the settlement, she passed a group of adults constructing a new water system. Pipes were carved from metal and stone, designed to collect rainwater and channel it to the fields. Mara had watched them work for days. Each part was carefully measured, tested, and rebuilt if it failed. Humans were patient. They understood that failure was only a step toward success. Night began to fall over the valley and the quarantine zone transformed. Strange lights flickered in the distance, reflections of minerals in the rocks. The wind carried scents of plants and earth, sharp and strange to anyone who had not grown up here. Mara climbed to a ridge overlooking the valley. She watched the settlement below as the humans worked together to light small fires, tend the fields, and prepare for the night. The stars above were unfamiliar. Far away, the inner worlds glimmered with the lights of ships and cities, a galaxy that believed humans were extinct. Mara felt a quiet pride. The humans in the quarantine zone were living proof that life could survive even in the harshest conditions. They were clever, resilient, and brave. They were human. For the first time, Mara allowed herself a small smile. Humans had survived when the galaxy thought they could not. They had adapted, learned, and grown stronger in a place that should have been impossible. And one day perhaps they would step beyond the quarantine zone, and the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of. Until then, they would live quietly, wisely, and with determination. The Council believed humans were extinct, but Mara knew the truth. Humans were here, thriving against every odds, and nothing could stop them. Not storms, not wild animals, and certainly not the Council's fears. And so the quarantine zone, once thought empty and deadly, was alive. It was a place of challenge, yes, but also of hope. It was a place where humans had learned to survive, to build, and to grow stronger with every passing day. Mara stood on the ridge, watching the valley, feeling the cool night wind on her face. Somewhere in the galaxy, the Council thought their problem was gone. Mara knew it was only beginning. The stars above were silent, but the valley below was alive. The humans of the quarantine zone had not only survived, they had thrived. And in the quiet determination of every child, every worker, every scout, and every healer, the future was waiting to be written by human hands. The Council thought humans were extinct. They were wrong. The first humans to leave the quarantine zone moved carefully, one group at a time. Finn, a tall, strong young man with bright eyes, led one group, while Lila, clever and quick, guided another. They had planned everything carefully. Each person carried only what they could manage, but they were prepared for every possible challenge. The quarantine zone was harsh, but beyond its borders, new dangers waited, strange climates, unknown terrain, and creatures that had never seen humans before. Still, Finn and Lila were determined. The humans had survived inside the zone for decades. They had grown up learning to trust each other, to be patient, and to think ahead. Every step outside the zone was a test, and every step showed that humans could face what others could not. When Finn's group crossed the last rocky cliffs, they saw their first alien settlement. It was a small colony built on a wide plain. The buildings were sharp and metallic, and the sky was crisscrossed with flying vehicles. Smoke rose from chimneys and lights flickered across the streets. At first, the humans hesitated. The aliens looked down from their platforms, studying the newcomers with strange expressions. Finn raised his hands slowly. "We come in peace," he said. Lila nodded beside him, scanning the area for signs of danger. The aliens whispered among themselves, clearly confused. They had been told that humans were gone, extinct. And yet here they were. A few alien workers stepped forward, looking wary. One of them carried a small tool that glowed at the tip. Finn motioned for the humans to stay calm. "We are here to help," he said. His voice was steady, firm, and calm. "If you have problems, we can solve them. We know your systems. We can repair them." The aliens stared. Some of them stepped back, others tilted their heads in confusion. They had never seen humans work like this before. Humans did not panic, did not beg, and did not demand anything. They offered knowledge, skill, and calm determination. Finn's group moved toward a broken transport system. Machines lay scattered across the ground, sparks flying from damaged circuits. The humans knelt, examining wires, testing connections, and adjusting mechanisms with careful precision. Lila led another group to the colony's food fields. The crops were failing. Alien farmers watched as their precious food shriveled in the strange weather. Lila knelt among the plants, touching the soil, studying the leaves, and observing the roots. She murmured instructions to her team, showing them which plants could be saved and which needed special care. Within hours, the fields began to look healthier. Water channels were repaired, soil was treated, and the crops that had been dying slowly started to recover. Alien onlookers whispered in amazement. Some had never seen anyone repair machines so quickly or revive dying crops so skillfully. The council had always considered humans fragile and weak, unable to survive without technology or support. Now they watched humans working calmly, correcting problems and solving challenges that their own experts could not handle. The whispers turned to fear. The council had believed humans would panic, beg for help, or fail spectacularly. They had been wrong. As the humans worked, Finn noticed a young alien boy hiding behind a pile of metal scraps. The boy watched Finn with wide, curious eyes. Finn crouched down, smiled gently, and waved. "We are friends," he said softly. The boy slowly stepped forward, his hands trembling. Lila smiled at the boy, pointing to the repaired crops. "See? Everything is fine," she said. "We can help." The boy's expression changed from fear to wonder. He ran to tell others what he saw. The human groups continued to move through the colony, offering help wherever they could. They repaired machines, fixed broken structures, and even showed the aliens how to use some tools in new ways. It was not about power or control. The humans only wanted to help, and in doing so they showed the council something it had never understood. Humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless. News of the humans spread quickly through the colony. Aliens who had been skeptical began to trust them. They saw that the humans worked together without arguing, planned carefully, and could solve problems that had seemed impossible. Finn and Lila did not boast about their skills. They simply acted, letting their actions speak. And the aliens noticed. By the end of the first week, the humans had repaired the colony's central power system, restored the main water channels, and helped the alien engineers redesign storage for crops and equipment. Alien workers, once doubtful, now followed the humans' instructions eagerly. Finn and Lila moved among them, explaining their methods and showing how to adapt to unexpected problems. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the humans gathered around a small fire. Finn looked at Lila and smiled. "They will never forget this," he said. "They will see that humans are not weak. They will see that we survive." Lila nodded. She thought of the quarantine zone, the hardships, the storms, and the nights when the wind had nearly swept them away. Humans had survived all that. And now, they were showing the galaxy what they were capable of. Meanwhile, the council observed the humans from afar. Through long-range sensors, they saw the repair of machines, the growth of crops, and the careful organization of the human groups. Reports came in quickly. "They are working together. They are efficient. They are calm under pressure," one counselor said. "Impossible," another replied. Humans were supposed to be extinct. The council debated what to do. Some wanted to send fleets immediately to confront the humans. Others argued for caution, afraid that humans could not be controlled. Every report made them more uncertain. They had believed humans were weak, small, and fragile. Now the humans were proving them wrong. Every machine fixed, every crop saved, and every alien life assisted was a small shock to the council's understanding. Back at the colony, Finn and Lila continued their work. They organized schedules, divided tasks, and taught alien workers new methods for farming, building, and maintaining machines. They encouraged the aliens to think, experiment, and observe. Slowly the colony began to thrive again. Machines worked smoothly, food supplies increased, and the morale of the colony rose. Finn watched the alien workers laughing as they learned new skills. Lila observed children playing in the repaired fields, their curiosity and excitement matching that of the humans who had grown up in the quarantine zone. One day, while fixing a water pump on the edge of the colony, Finn noticed a large group of aliens gathering at the main plaza. Curious, he walked over. Lila followed. In the center of the plaza, a small alien girl held out a plant that had been dying before the humans arrived. She handed it to Finn and Lila with a smile. "You saved it," she said in a soft voice. Finn nodded, smiling back. "We only helped," he said. "You did the hard work too. We just showed you how to make it stronger." The crowd around them cheered softly, a sound that Finn had not expected. The aliens were not used to humans, and now they were beginning to understand that humans were different. They were not weak, they were not helpless, and they were not afraid. Finn and Lila exchanged a glance. They knew this was just the beginning. As the humans prepared to leave for another nearby colony, the Council's anxiety grew. Reports of the humans' actions spread across the galaxy. Some counselors were furious that humans could exist and thrive. Others were worried because humans could not be controlled. Every action taken by Finn, Lila, and the other humans challenged the Council's beliefs. The humans were clever, patient, and strong. They acted without fear, with purpose and intelligence. The humans moved from colony to colony. Everywhere they went, they repaired machines, stabilized failing systems, and shared knowledge that had been lost over time. They taught aliens to adapt to challenges, to think carefully, and to act with patience. Slowly, the aliens began to trust humans not because they had to, but because they saw that humans could solve problems. Humans became not a threat, but a guide, showing what could be achieved with intelligence, care, and courage. Finn and Lila often sat quietly at night, looking up at the stars. "Do you think the Council will ever understand us?" Lila asked. Finn shook his head. "They think in terms of power and control. They will never understand humans. But that is fine. We don't need them to understand. We only need to survive and help where we can. Everything else will follow." And so the humans continued their journey. One by one, they emerged from the quarantine zone, showing the galaxy that humans were clever, resourceful, and brave. The Council watched from afar, horrified and amazed at the same time. They had believed humans were extinct. They had been wrong. Humans were not only alive, they were thriving, teaching, and slowly changing the galaxy one colony at a time. Every step they took was careful, every action purposeful. Humans did not seek glory, wealth, or power. They only acted with intelligence, patience, and courage. And every time they solved a problem or helped an alien colony, they showed the galaxy a truth that no one could deny. Humans were strong, clever, and unafraid. The first wave of humans who left the quarantine zone had done more than survive. They had begun a quiet revolution. The Council could no longer ignore them. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not what they expected. They were something new, something dangerous in the best sense. A species that could think, adapt, and act when others could not. And Finn, Lila, and the others knew one thing clearly. They would continue to help, continue to teach, and continue to thrive. Because humans, once thought extinct, were alive. They were clever. They were fearless. And they were only beginning. The Grand Council chamber was enormous, unlike anything humans had ever seen before. High ceilings stretched far above, with bright lights that glowed without a source, and walls that seemed to hum softly with energy. Rows of counselors sat on raised platforms, their faces serious, their eyes fixed on the entrance. They had been warned that humans might appear, but none had expected it so soon. Many believed humans were extinct. Many believed the quarantine zone had destroyed them. And now here they were. Jonas led the human group. He was tall, calm, and confident, with brown hair neatly combed back. Lila followed closely behind him, observing the chamber and its strange machines. Behind them walked Finn, Mara, and a small group of other humans, each moving quietly, carefully, and without fear. Their footsteps echoed softly on the polished floor, but their presence seemed to fill the room more than any sound could. The counselors whispered among themselves, their voices a mix of curiosity, fear, and disbelief. Some leaned forward, trying to see the humans more clearly, while others exchanged worried glances. One counselor, a thin alien with pale green skin and sharp, angular features, tapped a small device nervously, sending a soft hum of energy across the floor. "Do they really exist?" the counselor muttered to the one beside him. "We were told they are gone. Extinct. How are they here?" Jonas stepped forward. He lifted his hands slightly, showing openness and calm. His voice was clear, steady, and without hesitation. "We mean no harm," he said. "We only want to live, and help where we can." A hush fell across the chamber. The counselors stared, their faces a mixture of suspicion and disbelief. Some of them were used to negotiations with alien species, accustomed to threats, intimidation, and careful diplomacy. But humans were different. Jonas did not shout, did not threaten, did not panic. He spoke simply, clearly, and with purpose. One counselor, a tall creature with gray skin and glowing eyes, leaned forward. "You dare enter this chamber," the counselor said, voice sharp and commanding. "Do you not know the laws? Do you not know that the quarantine zone was forbidden?" Jonas kept his calm. "We know the rules," he said softly. "We respect them. But we live. And we are here to show that we can coexist. We are not a threat to this council or the galaxy. We only wish to live and help where it is needed." The tall counselor frowned, tapping a command on his platform. A small security system activated, a grid of light and energy appearing in front of Jonas. It was meant to intimidate, maybe even harm if needed. The humans, however, did not flinch. They stood their ground, calm and still. The system misfired. A sudden spark leapt from one of the panels and zapped the counselor himself. He yelped, stumbling back, causing the device to short-circuit and shut down. The other counselors gasped in shock. No one had expected the humans to remain calm, and no one had expected the counselor to be humiliated so quickly. Jonas glanced at the misfired system, then looked back at the counselors. "We do not fight unless necessary," he said. "We think, we plan, and we act with care. That is how we survive. That is how we thrive." Lila stepped forward next. She spoke softly with clear authority. "The quarantine zone taught us many things," she said. "It taught us patience. It taught us observation. It taught us that fear is often worse than the danger itself. We do not seek power. We do not seek war. We only seek life and understanding." A murmur ran through the council chamber. The counselors exchanged confused glances. Many had dealt with alien species who relied on intimidation, trickery, or threats. Humans relied on calm reasoning, intelligence, and careful action. It was unlike anything the council had encountered before. One of the younger counselors with blue-tinted skin raised a hand. "How can we trust you?" the counselor asked. "You were gone for decades. The quarantine zone should have killed you all. How do we know this is not a trick?" Jonas smiled faintly. "Trust is built through action, not words," he said. "We will prove ourselves. We can help your colonies, repair your systems, and solve problems that have challenged you for years. Watch our actions and you will see we are not your enemies." The counselors watched silently as Finn moved to inspect one of the chamber's malfunctioning systems. A small panel flickered with warning lights, showing that the energy supply to part of the chamber was unstable. Finn knelt, studying the panel with careful attention. He adjusted wires, recalibrated a sensor, and within moments the system stabilized. The lights on the council floor returned to steady brightness. Whispers filled the chamber. "They repaired it, that fast?" one counselor said. "Impossible." Lila then approached another console, one that controlled environmental conditions in the chamber. It had been fluctuating, causing the air to become too hot in some areas and too cold in others. She observed the readings, made careful adjustments, and the chamber's temperature evened out. The counselors felt the change and looked at each other in shock. Jonas spoke again. "We do not need power to succeed," he said. "We rely on observation, intelligence, and cooperation. That is how we survive and that is how we thrive." An older counselor, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. "And what of your numbers?" he asked. "How many of you exist? If the quarantine zone could not kill you, what else could you survive? How can you be controlled?" Jonas's eyes were steady. "We are many enough to survive and few enough to remain careful. We do not seek control over anyone. But we cannot be underestimated. We survive by intelligence, by cooperation, and by choice. That is what makes humans, human." The chamber was silent. Even the most experienced counselors had no answer. They had prepared threats, warnings, and intimidation, but nothing had worked. Humans had entered quietly, acted calmly, and solved problems with skill the council had not expected. A younger counselor whispered to another, I think we have underestimated them." The older counselor nodded, his face grim. "They are not what we expected. They're clever. Too clever for us to control." Jonas motioned for the humans to remain calm. Finn and Lila had already stepped back, allowing the counselors to regain composure. But the effect was clear. Humans did not need weapons, threats, or force. Their presence, their calm reasoning, and their intelligence were enough to unsettle the chamber. The council debated quietly among themselves. Some wanted to expel the humans immediately. Others argued that perhaps humans could be an ally, a resource, or a partner. But no one could deny the truth. The humans were clever, patient, and composed in a way that no alien species had ever been. Jonas spoke one final time. "We do not seek war. We do not seek power. We only seek life and understanding. If you wish to test us, watch our actions. If you wish to doubt us, wait and see. But know this, we are here to survive and we will survive." The council chamber remained silent. The words were simple, the language plain, yet the meaning carried weight no one could ignore. Humans were not fragile. They were not weak. They were patient, clever, and brave. And for the first time in decades, the council realized they had misjudged an entire species. Lila glanced at Jonas. They will never understand us fully, she said quietly. But that is fine. We do not need their understanding. We only need our survival, and the galaxy will see what humans can do. Jonas nodded. Exactly. Let them watch. Let them learn. And when the time comes, they will respect what humans can do, not through fear but through observation and understanding. The humans left the chamber quietly, calm and composed, leaving the counselors in a mixture of awe and fear. They had not shouted. They had not threatened. They had only acted with intelligence and patience. Yet their presence had already changed the council's thinking. Outside the chamber, the humans looked at each other. Finn smiled faintly. They will not forget this, he said. Lila nodded. No, she said softly. And neither will we. Every step we take now matters. Every action will be remembered. Humans have begun their journey, and nothing can stop us from surviving. The council chamber had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans, once thought extinct, had arrived, calm, patient, and intelligent. They had not needed weapons, fleets, or threats to make their point. Their skills, their presence, and their actions had spoken louder than any force the council could have used. And as the humans moved quietly back toward their waiting ships, one thing became clear. The galaxy had never seen anything like this before, and the council would never forget it. Humans were clever, patient, and fearless. And this was only the beginning. Reports arrived at the council faster than anyone could keep up with. The humans were no longer just a small group leaving the quarantine zone, they were everywhere. Ships were moving along trade routes, carrying humans who helped struggling colonies, repaired failing systems, and solved problems that had challenged alien engineers for decades. Every message brought news of another success, another colony saved, another system restored. Counselors gathered in emergency meetings, their faces grim and tense. They had prepared for many possibilities, but this was beyond imagination. Humans were supposed to be extinct. They were supposed to be weak, fragile, and unable to survive outside the quarantine zone. And yet here they were, thriving, efficient, and unafraid. A young counselor with pale blue skin slammed his clawed hands onto the table. We cannot allow this to continue, he shouted. They are spreading too fast. Their numbers grow. They cannot be controlled. We must send fleets. We must show them who is in charge. An older counselor, his gray eyes sharp and narrow, shook his head slowly. War is not the answer, he said. They do not attack. They do not seek power. We cannot predict what they will do if we strike first. And even if we succeed, we risk losing colonies that humans have already helped. Every time they act, a colony prospers. Do you not see what we are up against? The young counselor frowned, frustration evident in every movement. Then what do we do? He asked. Do we just watch as humans take control of the galaxy through kindness and skill? That is not how the council works. That is not how power works. Meanwhile, in one of the outer colonies, humans worked tirelessly. Amara, a skilled engineer, led a team repairing the energy grid that had been failing for months. The local alien engineers had tried everything they knew, but nothing worked. Amara observed quietly, her hands steady as she adjusted wires, recalibrated sensors, and tested outputs. Slowly the system stabilized. Lights flickered on, machines hummed steadily, and the aliens in the colony stared in amazement. A young alien apprentice approached her nervously. How did you do that?" he asked. Amara smiled softly. "We survive by choice," she said. "Not by command. We observe, we plan, and we act. That is how humans work. You must watch carefully, learn, and act with patience. Then you can succeed too." Word of her success reached the council almost immediately. The chamber filled with a mix of whispers, shouts, and disbelief. Reports showed that humans were fixing failing food systems, restoring trade networks, and helping colonies survive environmental disasters, all without demanding control or tribute. They acted quietly, efficiently, and with intelligence that far surpassed what the council had expected. One counselor slammed his fist on the table. "They cannot be controlled. Every time we try to contain them, they act in ways we do not expect. They adapt faster than any fleet, faster than any plan we can devise. They are unpredictable." Another counselor, younger and more cautious, leaned forward. "Maybe that is the point," she said. "Humans do not seek control. They do not seek power. They only survive. Perhaps we cannot control them because they are not meant to be controlled." The older counselor shook his head. "That is dangerous thinking. Unpredictable forces are dangerous. If we cannot control them, we risk losing influence over the colonies they touch. We cannot let this continue." Back in the colonies, humans continued their work. Mara and Finn led a team that restored a water filtration system for a desert colony. The system had failed months ago, leaving the settlers struggling for clean water. Finn climbed the pipes carefully, testing connections and pressure, while Mara monitored the control systems. Slowly, water began to flow, clear and steady. The colony cheered. Children ran to the fountains, laughing and shouting. Adults thanked the humans, amazed at how calmly and efficiently they had fixed something that had seemed impossible. News of the success traveled quickly. The council tried to intercept the reports, but they could not stop the humans from spreading. Every colony that humans helped became stronger, healthier, and more independent. Every system repaired, every disaster averted, was another sign that humans were not just surviving, they were thriving. In a council meeting, Amara's words were repeated by one of the messengers, "We survive by choice, not command." The room fell silent. The councillors realized the meaning behind the words. Humans did not act out of fear, greed, or ambition. They acted out of intelligence, patience, and cooperation. They were impossible to predict, impossible to control, and impossible to intimidate. Panic spread through the council chamber. Some councillors argued for immediate action. Fleets should move. Colonies should be taken by force if necessary. But every report made it clear, humans did not act like other species. They adapted, solved problems, and often helped the very colonies the council feared humans would dominate. They could not be treated like a normal threat. A councillor with red-tinted skin shook his head in disbelief. "They are everywhere," he said. "Every colony, every trade route, every system we watch, they are present. They are solving problems we could not solve for decades. And they do not fight. They do not take. They only act, and they grow stronger with every action." Another councillor whispered to a companion, "I fear what we do not understand. They are not just humans. They are something else. Something that cannot be predicted." Amara and her team worked late into the night. She moved from system to system, colony to colony, solving problems the council could not even track in real time. Finn and Mara coordinated repairs for transport networks, while Lila oversaw resource distribution for colonies struggling with failing supplies. Humans did not act for recognition or reward. They acted because it was necessary, because it was the only way to survive and thrive. Every colony they helped became stronger. Alien engineers and workers began to follow their methods, learning from humans' patience, observation, and careful action. Slowly, a network of knowledge and skill spread across the outer colonies, fueled by the humans' calm determination. Back at the council, reports kept arriving. Humans were repairing entire starports in days, stabilizing environmental systems that had failed for years, and even resolving conflicts between alien species with negotiation and wisdom rather than force. The council's fear grew with each report. They could not send fleets because humans did not fight. They could not contain them because humans acted wherever they saw need. They could not intimidate them because humans remained calm under pressure. Panic spread like wildfire. Councillors shouted over each other, demanding immediate solutions, fleets, containment fields, anything to stop humans. But the reality was clear. Humans were impossible to predict, impossible to stop, and impossible to rule. One younger councillor leaned forward. "We cannot fight them," she said quietly. "They do not seek conflict. Every action they take strengthens colonies, systems, and trade. If we attack, we risk losing more than we gain. They will survive no matter what we do." An older councillor slammed the table. "Then what do we do? Watch them spread? Let them outsmart us at every turn? We were supposed to be the rulers of this galaxy. And now, humans have changed everything." In the outer colonies, humans continued quietly, methodically, and efficiently. Amara moved from one failing system to another, offering guidance, adjusting machinery, and teaching aliens how to solve problems themselves. Finn and Mara repaired collapsed buildings and transport hubs. Lila coordinated resources, ensuring every colony had enough supplies. Each action the humans took was measured, intelligent, and calm. They never sought power, never demanded loyalty, and never tried to control the aliens. And yet, the effect was undeniable. Aliens who had once doubted humans now trusted them. Colonies that had been on the brink of collapse were thriving. Trade routes were flowing smoothly. Systems were stable. And the council, watching helplessly, could do nothing to stop it. Amara paused one evening, watching the sunset over a colony she had helped restore. "We are making a difference," she said softly. Finn nodded. "Yes. And they will see it even if they do not want to. Humans survive because we choose to act wisely. Not because we control. Not because we fight. but because we think, we plan, and we act together. News of this approach spread quickly. The council began to understand the true power of humans. It was not their strength, not their weapons, not their numbers. It was their intelligence, their patience, and their ability to act with purpose. Humans could not be intimidated, tricked, or controlled. They were impossible to contain. Counselors whispered, argued, and shouted, but the truth was clear. Humans were clever, patient, and fearless. They were thriving on trade routes, in colonies, and systems that had been failing for decades. They were everywhere, yet calm, precise, and composed. Panic grew in the council chamber because no strategy could predict their next move, no fleet could control their actions, and no threat could intimidate them. Every counselor felt it. Humans were not what they expected. They were not weak, fragile, or extinct. They were alive, thriving, and changing the galaxy simply by being themselves. And the council, for the first time in decades, realized they had underestimated humanity completely. The human outpost lay at the edge of a busy trade route. It was small, built to support a few dozen humans and the occasional visiting aliens. 4 months, the outpost had been functioning smoothly, repairing transport vessels, maintaining the local power grid, and distributing food and supplies to nearby colonies. Humans like Leo, Ivy, and other skilled engineers had made it self-sufficient, efficient, and calm, even in the face of minor difficulties. One quiet morning the alarm system blared. Red lights flashed across the outpost, sending sharp warnings through every building. Leo and Ivy were the first to respond. They ran to the central control hub, where a large display showed multiple ships approaching at high speed. It was a rogue fleet, a group of alien raiders notorious for attacking isolated colonies, taking supplies, and leaving destruction behind. Leo, tall and focused, studied the display. "They are trying to surround us," he said. "Their attack pattern is meant to overwhelm. But we know our systems. We know this outpost. We can stop them." Ivy, calm and precise, nodded. "We need to act fast. Let's divide their forces, mislead their sensors, and use their momentum against them. Everyone else, prepare defenses. This will not be about brute force, it will be about intelligence." The humans moved quickly. Engineers checked energy shields, recalibrated defensive turrets, and ran simulations to predict the attacker's strategy. Others organized evacuation routes for civilians, ensuring everyone was safe. Humans did not panic. There was no chaos, no shouting, only careful observation, coordination, and action. The rogue fleet opened fire first. Missiles streaked across the sky toward the outpost, while plasma beams cut through the distance, striking empty fields and power pylons. Some alien workers and nearby settlers panicked, running for shelter. But the humans stayed calm. Leo and Ivy coordinated with precision. They diverted incoming missiles into empty space, adjusted shields to absorb energy, and rerouted power to turrets ready to intercept attackers. Then they did something no one expected. Instead of meeting aggression with aggression, Leo and Ivy used the attacker's own strategies against them. Drones were sent to mimic outpost activity, creating false targets. Sensors were manipulated to show gaps where none existed. When the raiders attempted to flank the humans, they were guided into traps where energy nets immobilized their ships temporarily. From a distance, alien colonies watching the event could hardly believe what they saw. Human ships and systems worked in perfect harmony. Missiles and plasma beams were avoided without panic. The rogue fleet, confident in their attack, was gradually losing control. Every move they made was anticipated, countered, and redirected. Inside the outpost, Leo's voice was steady. "Remember, focus on observation. Anticipate, adjust, act. Do not fight blindly. Use your intelligence. Use the environment. Let them make mistakes. We will only respond wisely." Ivy moved through the command center, checking communications, rerouting power, and monitoring shields. "They will adapt," she said calmly. "But we will adapt faster. Watch the sensors. Watch their patterns. Every action has a reaction. We control the reaction, not them." The rogue fleet tried to attack again, this time targeting the energy grid directly. But the humans had predicted this. Temporary backup systems had been activated, shielding critical components. As the attackers' plasma beams hit the shields, the energy reflected slightly, sending interference back to the rogue ship's sensors. They miscalculated positions and collided with each other or overshot targets. Colonies observing the fight whispered in awe. "They are controlling the battle without fighting," one alien said. "They are using intelligence, not weapons, to win. How is that possible?" The humans continued to act calmly. Drones monitored weak points, relay systems rerouted energy where it was most needed, and turrets fired precisely to disable enemy engines without destroying ships unnecessarily. Civilians in the outpost were evacuated in an organized, calm manner. No one panicked. No one was left behind. Hours passed and the rogue fleet began to retreat. Their attacks were ineffective. Every attempt to damage the outpost was countered with intelligence and skill. Leo and Ivy coordinated the final movements, ensuring the rogue ships were trapped in a net of energy fields before a final warning signal caused them to retreat fully. The outpost was safe. Not a single human casualty occurred. Some systems were damaged, but the repairs would be quick. Civilians returned to their homes, grateful and amazed at what they had witnessed. The rogue fleet had been defeated, not with overwhelming force, but with observation, planning, and cooperation, the core skills of humans. News of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. Aliens who had previously doubted humans now shared reports with their home worlds. Humans had survived a full-scale attack without panic, without destruction, and without succumbing to fear. Every colony they had touched now respected humans not out of fear but out of understanding and awe. The Council received the reports in real time. Panic swept through the chamber. "They are not just surviving," one counselor shouted. "They are superior. They are using strategy, intelligence, and planning to overcome what our fleets could not." Another counselor added, voice trembling, "They did not just defend, they controlled the battlefield. They predicted every move the attackers made. They turned the enemy's strength into weakness. This is not survival. This is mastery." A younger counselor whispered, almost in disbelief, "They are not like other species. They do not react, they think. They do not fight blindly, they plan. They do not seek power, they act wisely. How can we control such a force?" Amara, who had been coordinating repairs across other colonies, received messages of congratulations and support. She smiled quietly. "We did what was necessary," she said. "We survived. That is all humans ever do. But we survive in a way others do not. We act with intelligence, cooperation, and observation. That is our strength." Leo and Ivy surveyed the aftermath at the outpost. Disabled rogue ships floated silently in space, while the outpost hummed with renewed energy. Civilians moved freely, repairs were underway, and the human team coordinated everything smoothly. Leo turned to Ivy. "Do you see it?" he asked. "We didn't destroy them, but we controlled everything. No one else could have done this." Ivy nodded. "Yes. Humans survive because we choose how to act, not because we fight blindly. That is why the Council fears us. They cannot predict us, they cannot control us, and they cannot intimidate us. We are different. We are stronger in ways they cannot understand." Back at the Council chamber, chaos reigned. Reports from multiple colonies and trade routes confirmed the same pattern. Humans were not just surviving, they were thriving, solving problems that no other species could handle, and even averting disasters with skill and calm. A pale counselor slammed his claws on the table. "We cannot send fleets against them. They are too clever. They do not fight the way we expect. Every fleet we send is predicted, countered, and defeated without bloodshed. How do we stop them?" An older counselor shook his head slowly. "We cannot. They are not a normal threat. They do not seek power, but they are proving again and again that they are superior in intelligence, planning, and courage. We underestimated them entirely." Reports kept coming. In one colony, humans stabilized a failing spaceport. In another, they resolved a dispute between alien traders without violence. Everywhere humans acted, colonies grew stronger, systems stabilized, and lives were saved. Their actions were intelligent, calm, and precise. No one could predict their next move and no one could contain them. The Council's fear deepened. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were a new model of strength. Not physical strength, not brute force, not weapons. They were strong because they acted with intelligence, patience, and cooperation. They were strong because they survived by choice, not by command. Leo, Ivy, and the other humans prepared for the next challenge, calm and confident. They knew the galaxy had seen what humans could do. And the Council had seen, finally, that humans were no longer weak, fragile, or predictable. Humans were clever, fearless, and uncontainable. Every colony, every trade route, every system that humans touched became stronger. And the Council, watching helplessly, realized the truth. Humans were not just a species. They were a force unlike any other. A force that would survive, adapt, and thrive no matter what. And Leo and Ivy, standing on the bridge of the outpost, looked at the stars. "They think they can control us," Leo said softly. Ivy smiled. "They already see they cannot. And that is enough. Humans survive because we act wisely, not because we fight. And they will see it again and again. The galaxy had witnessed the first true demonstration of human superiority. Not with weapons, not with violence, but with intelligence, courage, and choice. And the Council, once so confident, now trembled in fear of what humans had become. Years passed since humans first emerged from the quarantine zone. What had begun as a small group of survivors had grown into a widespread network of humans operating across colonies, trade routes, and systems. Unlike any other species the galaxy had known, humans did not seek to dominate, conquer, or enforce control. They acted where they were needed, helped where help was necessary, and disappeared quietly when their work was done. The Council watched all of this with mixed emotions. Shock had turned into caution and caution into respect. For decades, counselors had thought humans weak, fragile, and extinct. For decades they had underestimated them. Now humans were everywhere. Not as rulers but as partners. Not as conquerors but as guides. Every colony humans touched thrived, every system humans assisted stabilized, and every crisis humans addressed was solved calmly, efficiently, and intelligently. Amara stood on the balcony of a thriving trade station she had helped rebuild years earlier. The station was alive with activity. Alien traders moved quickly but calmly, their cargo managed efficiently. Human engineers oversaw repairs and maintenance, guiding alien workers and sharing knowledge freely. It was not leadership imposed by force, it was partnership earned by competence and trust. Amara watched the comet streak across the sky and smiled. "We act where we are needed," she said quietly. "We survive because we choose. That is how humans have always lived." On a nearby planet, Leo and Ivy coordinated the establishment of a new research outpost. Scientists from multiple species were arriving to study energy systems, resource distribution, and environmental restoration. Humans were central to the process, but they did not control it. They offered guidance, shared methods, and allowed the other species to learn. Every system operated efficiently, and every team member respected the humans' knowledge and judgment. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Ivy asked Leo. She pointed to a holographic map showing human networks across dozens of star systems. "We started in the quarantine zone and now, look at this. Every system we touch thrives. And we never forced anyone to follow us." Leo nodded. "Yes. We survived because we acted wisely, not because we controlled. That is what makes humans different. And that is what makes them respected." Back at the Council, reports kept arriving daily. Humans had repaired failing colonies, resolved disputes between alien factions, restored energy systems, and prevented disasters that would have destroyed worlds. Every success was noted, analyzed, and reluctantly respected. Counselors could not deny it. Humans were effective, patient, and unpredictable in ways that no other species had ever been. A senior counselor leaned forward, addressing the chamber. "We have been wrong about humans for decades," he said. "We feared them, we ignored them, and we attempted to control them. Yet they have proven that strength is not in domination, but in intelligence, patience, and the ability to act wisely. They survive not by force but by choice. And that is far more powerful than anything we could impose." Whispers filled the chamber. Counselors exchanged uneasy glances. They had spent centuries attempting to predict and control every species in the galaxy. And now, a species had emerged that could not be predicted, could not be intimidated, and could not be forced. They acted independently, intelligently, and effectively wherever they chose. Humans had mastered survival and influence without ever needing power. On a distant outpost, Mara observed young humans teaching alien children how to repair equipment, calculate resources, and solve problems logically. The children were eager to learn, fascinated by the humans' methods. Mara knelt to help a young student connect energy cells correctly. "We survive by thinking," she said softly. "By observing. By acting wisely. That is what humans do. And that is why others respect us." The galaxy began to change subtly but profoundly. Alien societies that humans had touched became more efficient, more collaborative, and more capable. Trade routes once plagued by delays and accidents now ran smoothly. Disputes between planets were often resolved with guidance from human mediators rather than violence. Humans had become the quiet backbone of progress in the galaxy. Even the rogue fleets that had once feared the humans avoided confrontation now. They had learned through repeated encounters that humans were not to be attacked recklessly. Humans did not react with anger or vengeance, but they acted with precision, intelligence, and calm. Any aggression directed toward them was met with careful countermeasures that minimized loss and maximized resolution. In the council chamber, debate continued. Some counselors argued that humans were a model for other species to follow, demonstrating how intelligence, patience, and cooperation could replace conflict. Others admitted, quietly, that humans were untouchable in a way no other species had ever been. No fleet, no threat, no political maneuver could dictate human actions. Humans chose their path, acted wisely, and walked away when the work was done. A young counselor finally spoke aloud what others had been thinking for years. "The most dangerous species," she said, "is the one that knows when to act, and when to walk away. Humans have mastered that perfectly. They do not fight blindly. They do not seek control. They act where needed, thrive where possible, and withdraw where appropriate. That is why they are respected, feared, and admired all at once." Amara, Leo, Ivy, Mara, and the other humans were unaware of how deeply the council had changed. They focused on their work, helping colonies, repairing systems, teaching others, and surviving as humans always had. They acted wisely, cooperated with alien species, and never sought recognition beyond the success of their efforts. Their humility and intelligence made them stronger, more respected, and more influential than any species that relied on power or threats. Across the galaxy, humans moved quietly but purposefully. Colonies they had touched flourished. Trade routes they had repaired functioned efficiently. Disputes they had mediated ended peacefully. And humans never took more than they needed. They never imposed rule. They only acted where necessary and walked away when their work was complete. In time, humans were invited to participate formally in galactic councils, not as rulers but as partners. Their advice was sought, their methods studied, and their presence respected. Other species came to understand that human strength lay not in fleets, weapons, or aggression, but in their intelligence, cooperation, and ability to act calmly and wisely. Leo and Ivy stood on a cliff overlooking a thriving colony they had helped stabilize years ago. The sun rose over the horizon, casting warm light over settlements, fields, and energy grids humming with life. "Look at them," Ivy said. "Every colony we touched is stronger, safer, and better than it was before. And we did not force it. We only acted wisely." Leo smiled. "Humans do not need power to be strong. We do not need to rule to be respected. Our strength comes from our actions, our choices, and our ability to survive. That is why the galaxy fears and respects us." Mara joined them, watching children play and aliens working together. "The council has learned its lesson," she said. "Humans cannot be controlled. Humans cannot be predicted. Humans survive because we choose, not because we are commanded. And that is the greatest power of all." Amara, speaking to the group, nodded. "We do not seek power. We do not seek control. We only survive, thrive, and help where we can. The galaxy has learned that humans are a species that acts wisely. That is enough. That is more than enough." The council, observing from their chambers, acknowledged the truth they had tried to ignore. Humans could not be ruled, contained, or dominated. They acted independently, intelligently, and bravely. They survived by choice, and that choice made them stronger than any fleet, weapon, or law in the galaxy. Humans had created a new model of existence, one where survival, cooperation, intelligence, and choice mattered more than dominance, fear, or force. And in this new galactic era, humans were respected partners, silent guides, and powerful examples of what a species could become when it acted with wisdom and purpose. Years later, humans continued to thrive quietly, efficiently, and wisely. Every system, every colony, and every trade route they touched became stronger. The galaxy had changed because of them, not through conquest but through intelligence, patience, and careful action. The council never forgot the lesson. The most dangerous species is the one that knows when to act, and when to walk away. Humans had mastered that perfectly. And that mastery ensured their survival, their respect, and their place in the galaxy for generations to come. And so, humans continued quietly, carefully, and wisely, leaving the galaxy stronger than they had found it, respected by all, feared by some, and admired by many. They had survived, thrived, and shown the universe what it meant to be human.